Yes, thank you so much for having me. My internet's been a little unstable, so if it's okay, I'm going to leave my camera off. It was going in and out while you guys were chatting, so I think it's a big group here. Thanks so much, Mike. As you mentioned, my name is Obayuwana. I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Partnerships for the Carpentry. I've started in March with them. My background is in community development with nonprofits, more on the local level. And so having an opportunity to work for a global organization was great. So I will just start just with a little bit of the Carpentries and then maybe a brief history of some of the milestones of how the three programs came together and some of our, Mike mentioned instructors, just what our impact we're able to have because of the number of volunteers we have. And then I really want to leave it open for some questions after that, if that's okay. And we'll go from there. So I think everybody knows the Carpentries is a nonprofit organization, and really at our core, we teach foundational coding and data science skills to researchers worldwide using software and a variety of software. We really aim to build community and local capacity for teaching so that others can scale, so that organizations can scale. So our membership model is really about getting people in with workshops, getting instructors trained so that then they can go out and for their community, teach the workshops and lessons that are relevant for them. I don't know how much of the history you guys know of Carpentries. It's definitely very community oriented and has grown organically. In 1998, Greg Wilson founded Software Carpentries, and that was there to teach those researchers those basic development skills. As time went on, lessons and materials were developed. There was some funding from Python Software Foundation and some others. Efforts continued to be scaled. In 2012, there was a big scaling with help from the Sloan Foundation we were able to do. And then Data Carpentry was founded in 2014. Data Carpentry really focuses on researchers who are dealing with obviously a lot of data specific domains is what we're working on. And then libraries actually was the last one to come on in 2018. And it came on when everything, to your point, Mike, joined as the Carpentries. So there was actually a separate Software Carpentries, separate Data Carpentries. And then under our fiscally sponsored project of community initiatives. Mike knows when we do our memberships that it goes through them as a partner sometime as well. It could take some time, but they are kind of our umbrella company for our nonprofit. So in 2018, we merged both of those. And then it was at the end of the year where Library Carpentries joined as a lesson program as well. And that's really focused on people in library information related fields, collecting information, museums, archiving, things like that. So since 2016 is when our membership model started. So that's when people actually started paying a membership fee, and that has just gone on and continued. The Carpentries does a really good job. Like as I said, I came from nonprofit work, but the number of volunteer positions they have, from trainers to maintainers to even the instructors that teach, the way they keep them engaged is really been amazing and has been a bright spot for me to see as I come. And then part of my job that I'll be looking at is how do we continue to give support to those instructors so that they continue to have what they need, to those maintainers and trainers, whether that's through fiscal support, through discounts, through memberships, or as well as just, support they need for technical things, for getting things set up, and using it as professional development for them, even is something we've really looked at. So when you think about our community, we talk about instructors, we have 3,000, over 3,200 instructors in our community. And as of June, so the beginning of this summer, when we did our last really full numbers, we had done over 3,000 workshops total. And that, when you break that down, encompassing over the total time we've been running it since, counting since we started memberships 2016, that's almost 80,000 learners. That's about 78,000 learners. So when you think about the community and the impact we've been able to have, I think it's been pretty significant. Spoke a little bit about the history. I talked some about the volunteers, our three Software Carpentry, Data Carpentry, and Library Carpentry, and how they all together are under Carpentries. You don't, a misconception sometimes that if you're a library, you can't use the Data Carpentry. A lot of the libraries we have use the Data Carpentry because it's really meaningful to what they're doing, and vice versa. We have people that do software carpentry that are more involved in programming effectively, but data carpentry helps them. So once you are, and all of our lessons are open science, so they're all there. You can get access to all of them through our website. We even have, which is great, for instructors that may not, or people that would like to be instructor, you may not be affiliated with an organization, you can get in through our open pool. So access and inclusion is very, very important to the Carpentries. We've done a lot of work in Africa. If those of you are familiar, we have the Carpentry Connect in Africa, led through South Africa. We have a person on our team, Angelique, that does a phenomenal job kind of leading that in some of our efforts in the global South. And then also for tribal universities and HBCUs and just others in general that may be smaller nonprofits, organizations that are just getting started. Having those open spots, we're working right now, actually currently as we speak, we're working on a new membership model that will include financial assistance, as well as kind of a sliding scale based on the country. So people will be able to get additional assistance. So I could talk about the Carpentries forever. I think it's, a great organization, that really cares about its employees and core team as well. We do something once a month that I just love sharing. It's called Reading and Reflection Day, and literally once a month, we don't take any meetings and we focus on just catching up on ourselves, reading, reflections, things we can do to serve better. And that's something that our executive team makes space for every month. So I'm honored to be here serving. I'd love to open it up and answer any questions or anything I can dive into a little deeper. That was a quick overview. I know we just have about 10 minutes together. So thank you. I'll check the chat.
Thanks so much, Al. All right, so what questions do people have? Just to give you a little background, that is a way of framing questions that I learned from the Carpentries instructor training to actually make it sound as if people do have questions instead of saying, does anyone have questions? Yes. So what questions do people have for Al about the Carpentries?
Yeah, hi, Al. Can I follow up? And I wonder if you could expand a little bit more. I'm interested in this community outreach kind of thing. I mean, something we have been talking about in the Teaching and Learning Working Group, and we're a very limited, I should say, still group in terms of representation, etc. So, I mean, we are far from being far from being such a extensive organization. But from your experience, I mean, what are your recommendations? What are your experiences in terms of growing community and outreach, and how this might happen? How you might bootstrap yourself into this kind of process?
No, that is a great question, and I open it up for others in the group with ideas as well. I think, I would say starting to figuring out who else is in your community, maybe who's being underserved. I don't know specifically for you, Claudia, if you work with other libraries, maybe local libraries, if there's an opportunity there to work with them. I know the schools. Mike and I share that I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I grew up right outside in Silver Spring. So I know there's a rich culture there. There's quite a few different universities, some which may not be R1 universities. So maybe even finding ways to partner, reach out to them to see what they're doing would be a way I would maybe say to start. I think if there's a specific group you want to work with, you can always reach out to us and we can see in our network if there's another community organization that has reached out to that group and maybe some leading practices they did or even some contacts, and that may help. So I'd be happy to connect you with any of those. Or if you have a more specific kind of community you're looking to target, I could help try to bring some other resources for you. Great question, though.
Thanks.
I'd be, so Carpentry started with, I think, software and then went to data or something like that. But there's new topics coming up like libraries and now AI. I'm curious about how Carpentries or you kind of evolve as new opportunities or new spaces emerge.
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And to be honest, I think I'm trying to figure that out, right? In my new role, I think part of it is doing just this, right? Coming to community discussions and events like this and hearing what else people are working on, what organizations are interested in, and then seeing how we build supports in to be supportive, to support that is one way. Yes, software carpentry came first, data, then library. I know there's been a lot of talk about AI. I think there's been a lot of talk even, we may not be able to develop everything, but how do we create space for others to develop and then be able to put their lessons out for all to be shared, to receive that credit, I think is something that we're positioned uniquely to kind of help in. So looking at that curriculum development piece and how that may work, historically, Carpentries has been about bringing the novice along, right? So I think, and Greg Wilson, even in conversations I've had with him, he'll say in the beginning, yeah, it was about, let's reach out to everybody and teach these basic fundamental skills. And then once we do that, we'll continue to build as we've had those organizations for a while and build on what else their need is. And I think what we found in the position we're in, is that there's a lot of room to continue to build that novice pool, right? So if we are wanting to continue to do that and bring in new organizations and new individuals, but also wanting to be responsive to those organizations that have been with us for 4 or 5 years and may be looking to go on and get other things, right? Like centrally organized workshops is something that usually after a couple of years, institutions have enough instructors that they're doing their own self-organized workshops. So what else may be something we can offer? And I think looking at curriculum and the support people are needing for the other kind of domain fields they're going into is going to be something that we're taking a strong look at in 2022, this next coming year.
Yeah, maybe I can add another question. Originally, and when I did my carpentry instructor training, the focus of the materials is coding. So coding along is a big deal, and trying to figure out how to engage people that they go along with you, make mistakes, etc. If we move away from this, I wondered, and maybe Daniel and Mike, you thought about this too in the library, the GLAM stuff that you started. What might, if we're not coding, or if we're moving towards material that might not focus on coding as much, what might be ways of keeping this engagement? Are there any experiences? Are there any ideas? What pedagogical models we might be able to use?
I think that's a great question. And I know not to put Michael on the spot, I think that'd be more for them to kind of decide on what and how, but yes, our basics is about kind of teaching those entry coding and making sure that we're bringing everybody along and doing it at the speed of, the novice in there, so that it's a good experience for everybody. There was an instructor I saw recently that who's been teaching with us for a while that said something along the lines of, if somebody is a novice and they don't get it or it goes too fast, you'll turn them off forever, right? If somebody understands it and is good, it's just opportunity maybe for them that they didn't learn something, but they're still going to be involved. So I think that's really the approach that we take. But I think, it'll be interesting as we start to develop curriculum and lessons that build upon other lessons, almost like a prerequisite model, how we incorporate all that, but still make sure we're being inclusive.
And to follow up on that, and this kind of goes back to Tom's question as well. Daniel and I and 2 other colleagues were part of a study group program that the Carpentries ran. So there are the data, library, and software Carpentries lessons, but then there's this whole other ecosystem of incubator programs that are kind of lessons that are incubating. So they're in development, various late stages of development that aren't quite ready for prime time. And we, through that program, that's where we developed the intro to AI for GLAM lessons. That is still in the incubator. It still hasn't graduated yet, but we've taught it to real audiences. But in going through that study group, there a lot of the decisions and struggles we've had, or how to put it, a lesson that didn't have direct hands-on coding into the Carpentries model, which is all about doing things live together in class. So we leaned a lot on having activities that that broke it up so that it wasn't entirely lecture-based. So we weren't teaching entirely about what is machine learning, what are the different algorithms involved, and things like that, to make it very heavy on having people digest what they just learned and put it into practice, to have smaller groups and discuss, talk about different case studies and things like that. And that's kind of what I think bigger picture, what the Carpentries model is about like taking, getting information into people's heads in a way that they can actually use it later on. So that's kind of where we tried to focus that material on. Okay, are there any other questions?
Well, okay, so perhaps to just get down to brass tacks, the people on this call think AI and machine learning are really important, especially in the libraries and cultural heritage sector. What can and should we be doing in relation to Carpentries going forward? Is it just keep leveraging people with one foot in each camp, like Mike or Daniel or others? Or are there additional things we can and should think about?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I actually want to take that to our executive team. I think there's definitely more we can do. I think, multi-approach, right? So continue, yes, in the spaces we're in, to kind of continue beating those drums, but maybe let's be a little bit more strategic about, bringing together the leadership and talking about what you guys really see happening in the next, year, 18 months. So we have some time to not just be reactionary, but really think about how we can proactively support. As Mike mentioned, I think Toby with his incubator lessons and those things are great and amazing. And there may be something using that sort of model that we can do. So maybe as a next step, Mike, we can see about, I know Carrie was just getting back from being out, but maybe as a next step, we get some time with a few of your colleagues, myself, Carrie, and maybe the curriculum team lead, which I believe is Aaron right now, and just talk about what that possibly could look like. So while we're bringing it up in those groups, we can also be very intentional to know that it's kind of an action item that we're keeping our eye on. And then I don't know if there's others. I know there are others out there, but that may start a conversation then of who else might we want to bring to the table, who's looking to do this, if you guys are open to working with some other maybe member organizations across that are looking at similar things.
I think we definitely would be. The discussions we've had is that lots of people are working on AI, and it's stronger as a network rather than trying to build a stovepipe.
Exactly.
Did you you may have said this in your presentation, I'm sorry, but what how much uptake or participation has there been outside of North America in Carpentries programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have roughly about 100 members, and I'd say about 60% of them are US based. So we are in Europe, South Africa, Australia, Canada, I think Mexico. And there may be a couple other, I don't have that sheet in front of me. I can send that out to you. We actually have it on our website. Pull up the different countries, but yeah, the majority of it is there. I know a big thing we're looking at with access is in the global South, because we know that's where there tend to be some more challenges. So that is a focus of ours going forward. And I spoke briefly about our pricing model we're working on. One of the things that was very important to me is that we come up with that sliding scale. So I think that will be one piece that will reduce barriers. We're going to have a sliding scale that looks at, some sort of index that then gives us a ranking, and then that would just be the flat rate for the country. So it'll probably end up being 4 groups. And then in addition, having a financial assistance application that organizations anywhere could fill out, because you could be a, you know, a small nonprofit, and even a silver membership at $7,000 may be a lot for your organization. So if we can get you 25, 35, or 50% off that, that may help as well. And then still being proactive with our open instructor training seats and our and those extra, you know, spots we can offer in workshops and things like that. And I can get you, I'll share those numbers with Mike, the exact numbers and number of countries at a later time, so he can share that with you guys as well.
That's really good to hear. As you might know about this group, we set it up to not be to be international and intercontinental. And I think North America, Europe, and Australia are the areas where we have concentrations right now. But we're hoping to go broader.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, and I am, you know, if we ever want to talk, you know, like membership strategy or just ideate a little bit together, I'm always open for those meetings. I have a Calendly that anybody can link and grab some time on there, and even just for us to process. I think even for me to learn as well. I think when I hear more about what other organizations are trying to do, it just helps me make those connections when I'm talking to others to say, hey, I should get you, you know, connected with Tom or Mike or Claudia. So I think the more I can be a resource, you know, this is you guys are volunteering and helping and assisting with this. This is, you know, our jobs to do this. So I definitely want to be available.